In 1996, I'd done an interview with Paul McCartney for the New York Times Magazine. And in the course of the interview, we talked about anthology, which was just being put together. And Paul mentioned to me that it might as well be called mythology, and was a little disheartened at the fact that the Beatles' story was only about 40 or 50% true. They made a pact in 1967 when Hunter Davies' book came out that they would tell a story and they would adhere to that story. They made up a lot of it, and only that percentage was true. And over the years, they had told the story so often that they didn't know what was true and what wasn't anymore. It all became part of their myth. And so I said to Paul at that point, you're the holder of a public trust. Do you want to leave your legacy to hacks and hagiographers? And he wasn't really interested in a biography, but I just decided that was it. When I heard that only that percentage of it was true, I felt that I had to write the whole story, and I was going to devote myself to it no matter what. Researching this was tough. Usually when you write a biography, it's about one person. This was about not just the four Beatles, but Brian Epstein and Pete Best and Stuart Sutcliffe. And so I had to set out to find everyone who knew them. I thought it was going to be easy. 1 year to research, 1 year to write. That was the plan. And of course, it took nearly 8 years to pull the whole thing off. I began with that outer circle of acquaintances and worked my way inward until I got to the families who had to talk to me at that point because everyone had spoken. And many had not talked about the Beatles since they were involved with them. They were told point blank by the Beatles, you don't speak to the press, especially the family. But luckily that began to chip away, and by the time we got close to amassing all of the research, I had just about all of them. The Beatles were pushing into their 60s at that point. And when you hit 60, when you hit 50, you begin thinking about your own mortality. Even, I would say, icons like the Beatles. And I knew that that was having an influence on McCartney as well. And so, where they were usually not just tight-lipped, but kept the padlock on the sources, that padlock began to open up because I think they wanted someone, if not me, someone else, to take on the story and to get it right for once. It is the first full biography of the Beatles. It didn't rely on the myth that has been embroidered over the last 40 years. It is a biography written in the style, and I'm sorry to be so presumptuous to say it, of, say, David McCulloch or Robert Caro. Not a pop biography, but a biography that collected all the sources and recreated the drama of the Beatles as it happened using very reliable sources. And in fact, this is the first book with hundreds of books on the Beatles that was actually sourced almost line by line in the back of the book. So I think that I might have the audacity to say this is the first full-scale biography the Beatles ever written. This book is unusual in the sense that it brings four men to life who we have not had the chance to meet before. We've met them through the mythology that they created. We met them through the iconography that's been set up around them, the musical cocoon that they've lived in. But we've never really heard them talk, seen them move, felt them breathe, talk to each other, create. And so if there are any revelations in this book, it is that these men come alive for the first time as men and not just the four mop tops. That was an image that they created and was only good for a year or two, and then they became human beings.